Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Royce Morales is the founder and teacher of the Perfect Life Awakening program, author, columnist, and expert on mirroring. She empowers clients with her profound process that helps neutralize self-sabotage, shift stuck patterns and negative thinking by locating the origins of limiting, subconscious programmed beliefs. Live an authentic existence, discover your true purpose, connect with your higher consciousness, reset your life. Transform from triggered to empowered and attract what you truly desire and deserve by discovering what life is reflecting to you. Because it's all mirrors.
Hello, welcome to my show.
Thank you. Hi, Royce. Good to be back.
It's good to have you back. And in just a minute, I'm going to introduce the both of you in this wonderful pre-Valentine's show about intimacy. And it's a little bit different than my other shows that I've been talking about mirrors, but it's all going to fit together because, of course, intimacy is a huge mirror for us. What is it that we're not? Why are we afraid of intimacy? Why is it so scary? Why can't we talk about sex? Oh my gosh. So we're going to really talk today about what is true intimacy and why is it some people can attain it and some people just can't? And is intimacy something that can be taught? We'll find out today from my wonderful guests. And like I said, I think intimacy is something that all of us struggle with to some degree. And I think that intimacy is not actually perhaps what we think it is. It might be something completely different. In fact, my wonderful two guests came up with a word that I think really describes it, and it really fits into the theme of my show. And they call it into me, I see. I just think that is brilliant. It's just perfect. Because, of course, to the degree that you're intimate with yourself is the degree that you can be intimate with others. It really goes hand in hand. So I have to say, based on the theme of my show, and if you've been watching my show for the last few months, I always talk about one little thing that gets in the way of our life all the time, and especially intimacy, and I call it deservingness. There's a part of us that really doesn't believe that we deserve to be intimate. We sabotage it subconsciously. We let things get in the way. We hold back. We do all kinds of things because part of us feels like, I don't deserve this. Who am I to deserve somebody to be intimate with me? So hopefully we'll get into that a little bit too. So let me introduce my wonderful guests. They have been on my show before, and I'm so thrilled to have them back. And I never can pronounce your name right. Dr. Elsbeth Meuth. Is that how?
Meuth, almost.
Okay, well, you'll just go by Elsbeth from now on.
Just keep it simple, dude.
And Freddy Zentel, they are intimacy experts. And let me tell you a little bit about them because they're amazing. They assist thousands of people, couples as well as single people, to create lasting intimacy and fulfillment in their life and in their relationships. And they're going to talk about that. They're featured on Showtime's documentary series, Sexual Healing, and the Emmy Award-winning NBC show called Starting Over. They're best-selling authors. They wrote Sexual Enlightenment, and they have another book that they're going to talk about too. And they're just amazing. And of course, well, I shouldn't say of course, but wonderfully, they're married. They're husband and wife. And I just found out they've been married a long time. How many years did you say it was, Freddie?
25 years.
25 years. That's the silver anniversary? Or
I think so. Yeah. You've got us beat by a couple decades, but I think it's the silver.
I know, really. I know. So let's first of all talk about, how do you define intimacy? What does that word mean to you? Tell us what that means.
Well, it's something that we have forgotten because, into me I see, we didn't actually coin that, but we use it because it makes so much sense. Um, at the beginning when we're in the womb, we're just zygotes and we're just floating in the embryonic fluid and it's wonderful and we aren't worried about a thing, not even food, anything. Then suddenly, our brains haven't completely, developed, but we're born. And then life happens, good, bad, sad, all this. And then we get to a point in our life that we've really forgotten about that stillness. It comes over us every now and then. Maybe romantically we fall in love, or we're on vacation, or a moment we have something happens and we become aware of just being. So the practices that we teach are really reminding people of what they've forgotten in terms of this stillness that's always available to us just beneath the story mind, the old experiences, the beliefs, and all of that.
How interesting. I never would have thought that intimacy would be reminiscent of being in the womb. That's fascinating.
The stillness of being in the womb.
Stillness.
The stillness,
And
yes.
actually, that's great that you bring that up, Royce. This is the most connected place we can be in as an embryo and, budding baby with another human being. That's the closest we ever get in terms of oneness,
That's true.
and that sense of intimate connection, intimately connected, which is, of course, part that still plays, because when I feel intimately connected, I am fulfilled. There's nothing else I'm looking for, and we really desire these moments, and how we try to get them is that we look for them outside.
Right, right.
So hold intimacy a lot like there needs to be another who loves me, or who I love, or who I'm attracted to. And all of that, of course, can embellish it, but it's not the source. The source of intimacy lives within oneself. So, for example, when I'm angry with Freddy, he did something I didn't like, or I didn't get something I wanted, or he didn't do it the way I wanted. So I become self righteous. I may make him wrong. And of course, I'm right. That is a time when I'm not intimately connected with myself. And then I don't feel like that's the last moment I would want to connect intimately with him. The access to connecting intimately from heart to heart with Freddy is connecting to my own heart and come into my intimate self. And we are not even talking about sexual intimacy. That is another level then. It all starts with heart intimacy, because the heart is the connector. Sex is not a connector. It's a pleasure and lust connector, which is great. But intimacy, true intimacy, is not available.
I believe it leads us to that place. The physical sexual act, made really developed, to procreate, keep us existing. And yet in those moments of orgasm, we are connected, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. We are one. We are just with the beginnings of the universe. And what we're doing really is similar to what your language is in terms of like mirrors. It's like I'm mirroring the outside world from who I'm being inside.
Yeah.
So if I feel like it's a horrible day, that's how the world appears to me.
Yes.
So as soon as I can begin to be, self-reflective enough in a practice or in a way that somatically I can begin to get some distance from what I believe is the only truth, then I can start to move towards this dream, this idea of how I would like to feel, what I would like to be, how I would like to experience. And then that starts to become the truth for us.
Yeah, and then it becomes essential that in your introduction you spoke about, can we teach intimacy, which means then we could learn about intimacy, is that none of us got taught or guided in the distinctions and practices of cultivating intimacy with oneself and then with a partner. And that is back to what Freddy said with sexual intimacy or this orgasmic moment that really has us stop to think. That is part of why we love it so much, because our shadow mind, we cannot think and be in the orgasmic moment at the same time. It's
It's
not
true.
possible. And so that is like really a relief, for 2 seconds or
So, so,
let me just finish here, darling. So we want to look at how can we create intimacy that lasts, like that I can regenerate. For that, I need to know what are the distinctions or principles and what are the practices for that. And this is what we have developed here in TantraNova, because we found people have no guidance, including myself when I started out. And that can be actually taught. Yes, of course, then it needs to be practiced by the individual and by the couple.
yeah, what I say is not so much we're teaching you anything new, we're reminding you of what you've forgotten. Because as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the womb, and that experience is always available to us. That's like the innate beginning. And so what we teach is how to get to that and remember that and experience that and cultivate that through being conscious in the sexual practice, the practice of the working with the sexual altered state that happens when we're in that energy. We're more open, loving, vulnerable, receptive. Chemically, we're changed, more endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones. So with specific distinctions that we teach, one can get more connected to that aspect of our belief system, that aspect of what may be there, continuing the practice of creating what we're getting to then move towards what we most deeply desire.
I have about 1,000 questions right now. So how do you teach it? What is the protocol? What do you do to get somebody to that place, or to
Yeah.
get a couple to that place?
Yeah.
Especially if they have a hard time communicating that.
Yeah. So in our culture, how we try to resolve conflict is through talking, if we have the capacity even to talk.
Yeah.
Um, Often it's distancing because it's this fight or flight or freeze, and then we are just stuck in that state within and then in relationship. So, in talking is guided by the conscious mind. Mostly what goes on when we have differences is not so much in the conscious mind.
Yes.
We have some reasons, but underneath the reasons are feelings, are perhaps old stories, past hurts from the relationship or past relationships or when we grew up. So we cannot access through the rational mind. The rational mind is not conducive to connecting.
That's
Just
for
as
sure.
I said, sex is not conducive to connecting on a level where we actually can find to each other. So we want to learn, when we teach it, we guide couples and singles when they come into connecting with their heart. Because the heart is the feeling part, it's the magnetic dimension of our being. And when my heart vibrates in love and joy and gratitude, I feel good. However, when my heart is afflicted with hate, with anger, with jealousy, that is not a good place from which I can invite my beloved to, look at something that we may want to work on or change or a request I may have. So, in the learning, we distinguish 3 dimensions. One dimension is the physical sexual dimension. The second dimension, and they are not chronological or one is better or not, so they are equally important. The second one is the heart dimension where love and emotional intimacy resides. And the third one is the intuitive, the consciousness, the spiritual. And to actually work, bring awareness to these dimensions and also noticing and witnessing where am I coming from at a particular moment. So it's an inner job to become more aware of, because once I'm aware of it and I notice I come from anger and make wrong, which is no access to connection or reconciliation, I can bring my awareness to my heart center literally. And everyone who is listening, you may just want to put your right hand on your heart center for a moment and notice how by placing your hand on your heart center, your energy moves actually there. Wherever I bring awareness to, energy follows. So instead of figuring it out, of making myself wrong or making Freddy wrong, I connect with my heart by breathing into my heart. And from there, I can ask the question, Elsbeth, what is it that you really want? And perhaps then underneath the upset, what comes out is that I just would like Freddy to listen to me. Just listen without any response. I want to be heard. I want to be gotten. But I cannot get to that when I'm in a state of make wrong and,
Yeah, it's recognizing, our story making that we do. Because when we're talking to ourselves and making up, some sort of self-reflected, experience that we're having, feeling subjected to our lives, it's really learning how to become aware of that story. And there's a very easy practice where you can breathe. And there's particular kind of breathing, parasympathetic breathing that we teach, not teach, but, lead people to, because it's how we breathe as babies. Um, and that breathing like that really requires our mind to think to extend the diaphragm and belly. And for most people, we can do it about 3 breaths before we recognize the story starting. And in guiding someone in that practice, they begin to see how busy that mind is. And that mind is made up from stories and beliefs and experiences that perhaps served us at one point, but don't necessarily serve where we want to go in terms of how we want to live and be and experience in our life.
yeah, it's very much teachable if a person is willing, to
Yeah.
learn. So then that Freddie just mentioned, there are 3 distinctions that we guide people to then practice, which is the conscious breath, the parasympathetic breath that gives us more calmness, and then the witness state of mind that opens up. When I'm calmer, I can look at it. I can be with my anger instead of being my anger. When I am my anger, I cannot see anything else but what's over here. And when I have that little pause and distance through the witnessing, I can watch my emotions, I can witness my thoughts, and from there I can choose, Elspeth, would you like to continue being angry, or are you more committed to harmony in the relationship and to seeing how we can create that? And given that my overarching commitment is harmony, then I shift out of the anger into, stay with the breath, witness, and that then opens my heart.
So, excuse me, one of the things that I talk about on my show, that's why it's called It's All Mirrors, is that when somebody is in that state of anger or whatever it is, there's a mirror to look at. So if Freddie says something to me and I get really pissed off, I can do the breathing and all of that. But taking it one step further, is what is he showing me about myself that I don't want to see? You know, I'm pissed at him for wearing a red shirt today. So what is what is that about for me? Well, I'm wearing a red sweater. Wow, there's a mirror there. I mean, I'm being silly, but there's something to see about myself from those buttons and those triggers. Do you guys talk about that at all?
No, absolutely. So in a workshop, someone would go through a variety of processes, active and passive processes, and discovery work. They can then see the why of something and get the line. And then we work with them with the somatic practices. So now they're putting together the witness state of mind, the story that they believe, the effects they've been getting, aligned with their intention of what they came to the workshop to create. And so in the somatic practice, they're starting to get some stillness and some witness state of mind where they're seeing energy in their body, they're seeing story that they believe, and now they're beginning to get some distance from that into now create how they want to feel. And so then we move them into maybe not the first workshops, but the second group of workshops, they would go through the learning the sexual meditation practices,
Yeah.
which is a whole nother level of getting to and being in an altered state to get to the what is it I want to move towards creating more of in my life, to get some distance from the old story and belief.
Yeah, so we used emotional energy, and then on the advanced level work, we include sexual aroused energy. That given that sexual energy is so primal, it's non-reflective, non-reflected. To bring awareness to it, just as I bring awareness to my anger, instead of being my anger, I witness my anger. In the same way, we can do this with that impulse of sexual energy. Anger and sexual energy or arousal are impulses. They are built into our nervous system, and when they, kick in, and we are like animals there. It's our, heritage. However, what we as human beings, how we distinguish ourselves from animals is that we are aware that we are aware. You know, animals also have consciousness. However, they don't have the consciousness of being aware of being aware. And that is where we as humans have access and can become that witness of ourselves. And I just want to build a little bit on giving an example to what Freddy laid out here. So this past weekend, I led a 3-day retreat for women, which is called Awaken to Your Feminine Essence. And essence is all about a texture, a feeling, a sense. It's not a thing. The feminine is essence, it's the beingness. The masculine is the doingness. And of course, all of us have this within us as well as it shows up in relationship. So the theme, back to what you opened up here, Royce, around what can I see about myself in what is being offered to me through the other, that first may really hit a sore spot, where I may not want to look. But that question of what can I see here is actually a very high level question.
Yeah, it is.
So requires quite a bit of willingness to have gone there, to even be open in the moment of heat, to, drop into that. So, and in this workshop retreat, a recurrent theme was that the discomfort, particularly around love and intimacy, that the discomfort, the disconnect within, is caused by circumstances or a person in the external world, totally missing that, as we said earlier, intimacy emanates from within. And it was a huge opening for most of the women that when they shifted in their perspective, and shifting perspective in our work really happens through experiential practice that recalibrates the nervous system. And then the women tuned with their self where they could feel the inner love, which often has to do with clearing, old burdens, pains, emotional pains, physical pains, and so forth, that they can actually connect and be connected with themselves where they can see then, wait a minute, it's not that person who caused me the pain. The pain was caused within. I'm not saying this other person or the environment did something.
Right.
And that doesn't mean we endorse necessarily what they did. But the pain is felt over here. Physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain is felt over here. That's the only place because that's my nervous system. So if this lives over here and I feel this way, I have agency to shift how I feel. Again, it's a high level practice that we guide women and men and couples
Yeah, for the
towards.
man, it's a little different, but I can go into that. But Royce, what do you think about all this?
I think it's great. It's wonderful. Yeah. And I keep thinking we are all in these human bodies. We all have the same physical needs, the basic physical needs, sex being one of them. Why is it so hard for us to just say what we want sexually or to express ourselves sexually? I mean, why do we need to create pornography to give us an excuse for that? Or, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah,
it's
no, yeah,
such
absolutely.
a natural thing.
The sex piece is so built in. It's like food and water, right?
Yeah.
And without it, we wouldn't be here. I don't know what the consciousness was thinking when they created sex as the way to continue to exist, but they sure got a good one on that. On that one. But as thinking as Homo sapiens, we have developed as a warring class in some sense. Machiavellian, taking this and owning that, and all of that. And so when you become intimate and connected and open and loving and vulnerable, you get eaten, which was the whole male energy ran the world for so long and still does to some extent. And it's going to ruin the world if we don't integrate the feminine with the masculine energy, right?
Yes.
So that's all in process. So for the man in the tantric practices, one of the primary edicts is for him to learn to separate ejaculation from orgasm. Because as men, we are run by our little heads our whole life, like the little guy with the little erection. Ma, look, no hands, and we're run by the little head our whole life, And so for the man to learn to not just last longer, because a lot of guys can do that. We're talking about consciously sip on what we call this orgasmic nectar. And that requires consciousness of energy and move and awareness of breath and muscle awareness and so on. And once a man starts to do that, yeah, it will affect his lovemaking in terms of going as long or as short as he wants. More than that, it will open up the unconscious, automatistic, lusting appearance of how we are run by this energy. Because for guys, also, there's two emotions that we are socially modeled, which is that's fucking or fighting, excuse my French. But those not loving and vulnerable and nurturing. That's not what guys are taught is okay to show, even though we feel that. And it's part of human nature. We are all of those emotions. So in the sex piece, even though we start feeling it there, when we're in the sex piece, we're open, we're loving, we're vulnerable, we're receptive, we're nurturing, we're all of those things. And that's kind of what we're lusting for in a sense, but it appears like just selfish love, but it becomes agape in those three, that nectar. That love starts to become a way of being and listening, and a more awareness and familiarity and accessibility to that outside of the sexual practice, as a way of listening in relationship, listening to his dreams, listening to what his thoughts are cascading in terms of creating. So everything starts to shift. It's bigger than the bedroom. And that's what we've been doing with thousands of couples and singles all over the world for the last 25 years, people of all levels, whether they know anything about this or not. After 3 days, they get what they want.
Wow.
I know.
It's, I'd say, the first level of what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ongoing. I mean, if they come in with an intention of what they want to clear up, they can see the path to creating it because they are the only ones. It's a mirror, like you said. It's we're creating what we're getting. Oftentimes we don't see it, that we are actually creating it. It's because if she didn't only say this thing, or if he didn't only do this thing, or if life this or that, something external, as opposed to actually I can shift what I'm believing and what I'm seeing and start to move towards that and gravitate towards that, my energy, my belief, and my actions.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said is so important. It really rings a bell in terms of it's the primitive nature that comes out. And that's just real important, especially, I'm sorry, but hate to sound sexual or whatever, but it seems more of a male driven thing. The female energy is more, it doesn't go there as quickly as it does with a man. So I think that's really important what you said.
But you need both, because once the man gets activated that way, he becomes in the feminine energy in terms of the open, vulnerable receptiveness.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a yin yang. It's a back and forth. It's a yes and a both and. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also, that so masculine energy in when it's balanced is
Yeah.
grounded and centered. And we often speak about the masculine energy, how it, may want to show up in a man is that he's grounded in his manhood and open in his heart. And that is the interplay of the feminine and masculine, within him. Or if we want to take the words out of, the gender thing, we can just say yin and yang. The opening of the heart is yin, and the groundedness in his manhood is where he's in his yang. And he uses this powerful testosterone energy that is so alive and so forthcoming. He learns to channel that so that that energy becomes a fuel for his love. So in the tantric practice, the man learns to breathe up. Freddy calls it sipping on it, from his sexual center into his heart center. So it goes up. You cannot see this, what my hand does here, from his
Bringing it
sexual
up to the
center.
heart.
Yeah. Now, when his heart opens, guess what opens for me is my heart. So most women, when they want to connect, they start feeling it in their heart center.
She can trust again.
When most men want to connect, they start feeling it in their sexual center. Now, what I'm saying here is not just so for men and women in heterosexual relationships. It's the same in same-sex relationships, bisexual relationships, transgender relationships, because unless there is a polarity in relationship, there is no magnetism. So we need to, it's like the North and the South Pole. If one would fall off, the whole globe would fall off, So the yin-yang, feminine and masculine, are polarities. So we want to cultivate further the awareness of our inner polarity, while we then also learn how to balance the polarity between us, which means at moments for me to really drop into my feminine instead of being the bossy kind, making it happen,
Which is out of balance, even though that can serve you. But to be out of balance one way or the other is a disservice.
Yeah, it's not like I'm glad I have these masculine or yang skills. I cultivated them for most of my life because I wanted to become a successful businesswoman, and to compete in the marketplace, we need these yang skills.
Yeah.
However, many of us women have forgotten about our feminine. And then the man cannot be in his masculine. If we are both in the masculine, we are like this. If we are both wimpy and out of balance feminine, we are all over the place, So we want this, the masculine and the feminine. Masculine is linear, feminine is circular.
Awareness.
They complement each other very well. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm always in my feminine and Freddy is always in his masculine. We may actually shift the dynamic, wouldn't you say?
I would say to be aware of when the shift happens and to not feel stuck in any of it, but to choose and really see the dynamic of what's shifting and what's happening and what it is you want to create. Because a lot of guys out of unconsciousness who want to get along with the woman wind up usurping their own authority as a sentient individual and not doing it all or asking at all for what they want. Because when they do, they get the opposition from her. And then they feel pissed off because they don't do and can't do and feel. And then they start, then sex stops, communication stops, anger happens. It becomes a very, unbalanced relationship. So a man has to know, like a woman has to know, and each has to know together and collectively and individually really what it is that they're desiring, what they're wanting, what they're feeling, and that they're moving in concert with the way that things are flowing.
Yeah. And I'd like you to talk more about that when we come back from the break, because I think, like I was saying, it's so difficult for most people to just talk about it, and it should be natural to talk about it. It should be as easy as, I'd really like some cereal this morning, and it just isn't. So we'll be right back. I'm going to mispronounce it once again, Elsbeth Meuth. Meuth. Anyway, Lisbeth.
I listen to you, no matter.
Okay. What? And we will be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you want to break free from old patterns and limiting beliefs that subconsciously sabotage your life? What are your triggers, and what really is beneath them? Are you seeking answers to life's big questions, intrigued by the possibility of self-discovery that goes deep? Looking for tools to help you break free from hidden sources of feeling stuck, confused, and unworthy? Perfect Life Awakening takes you on an epic inner adventure that shifts your perception of yourself, others, and life permanently. Identify and overcome the origins of subconscious triggers and limiting beliefs holding you back. That's how you transform your mindset from the roots. That's how you liberate your spirit, awaken your intuition, and discover your true purpose. Dive deep into the mysteries held within. Embark on a life-altering journey of self-discovery. Be a trailblazer within your own life. Go from triggered to empowered, because you deserve a perfect life awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. I am talking to these two wonderful people all about sexuality and intimacy and love and connection and all kinds of fascinating things. We were just talking about communication and why it's so difficult to just talk about what we want or ask for what we want or anything actually sexually. So talk a little bit more about that. Why is that so difficult for us?
Yeah, it exposes people's underbelly, the tender side. And look at the world. I mean, we are in a process of more war on the planet than there's been in decades. And yet I feel the glass is still half full. There's a lot of people that are waking up.
Yes.
And I think that at some point, kind of like with the sexual revolution in terms of pornography is everywhere. And I think that what's happening is people are just becoming aware that sex is, becoming more public. And women are starting to uncover and discover, oh, I can do that and I can see that. It's part of the discovery. But it's kind of like discovering that there's food. So now you stuff yourself with McDonald's and you realize, oh God, that's clogging my arteries. Now what else can I do? Oh, I can eat different types of food and I can get vegetables. And so do sexual meditation requires another level of awareness of sexuality, but you can't even get to that if you're just completely consumed with, and you've been denied the sexual experience your whole life, and it's considered so bad. Then to do something more than just lust with it requires letting go of all that modeling. Forever with sex, we've been procreating. That's what this energy does, creates life. The last 100 or so years recreating with the development of contraceptives. And so what we're sharing and teaching is how to co-create with this sexual energy. I mean, there's an intelligence encapsulated in it, in that it was creating life before we had language. So when we bring consciousness to the sexual as we're sharing it, what starts to show up outside of the bedroom is creativity and pleasure. The kernel of that energy starts to show up as a foundational way of listening and being in our life. So if I say, well, 30 more years retirement, hate my job, I wouldn't say that being aware of what that cascading thought does to my energy. So when we're in the sexual meditation, that altered state, we're starting to tune into another level of energetic awareness, right? Particularly in an aware state, in the sexual altered state. So that plays out in how I'm listening to the stories I create in my mind, how I'm feeling in my body, my senior commitment is to feel and create and be in my life. So it's really got a profound effect when we bring consciousness to the sexual. I believe that until we really can get past the vilification and unconsciousness around the sexual, we can't make that next spiritual quantum leap to seeing ourselves and each other. Peace on earth is just a thought away.
Yes, I talk about that all the time. Yes, we could just look inside. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were mentioning before we started that you have a practice that you'd like to teach us. I would love for you to do that. And hopefully that will help people to break through some of these taboos and limitations and sexual blocks that we have. So what is it that you actually, maybe if people aren't even familiar with the word Tantra, maybe you should tell us what that is and then just kind of lead into what this practice would be.
Yeah, so Tantra is one of the original yogas of the energetic body, unlike Hatha yoga of the physical form. And it encompasses working consciously with life force or sexual energy to reach altered states of awareness and self-reflection. And so what we're doing as TantraNova is we're integrating aspects of that energetic yoga and aspects of the Western approaches to transformation in terms of generative language, how we create our reality and language, creative self-discovery, how we discover ourselves in the creative process in music and movement and art. And we've created our own gestalt of practice that allows people and assists people in moving with grace, ease, and flow out of those beliefs and stories to start moving towards what they most deeply desire.
Yeah.
So you've created a center that does this.
TantraNova
Right.
Institute, yeah.
And it's the new Tantra. So TantraNova here in Chicago, and of course, as Freddy mentioned, we have been teaching all over the world. So the yoga of the energetic body, which Tantra is, so that we are so familiar with affecting the physical body. We live very much in a mechanical world. In order to achieve something, there are mechanics involved, overcoming time and distance, a Newtonian world, which of course the three-dimensional world is based in. And simultaneously, there is an energetic world. And we are mostly guided by these energies. because the way we feel is pure energy. We cannot see with the mere eye or touch an emotion. I cannot see the emotion of love. I mean, a person may have a blissful, expression in their face, but that is not love itself. That shows up in a certain way. So we work with these three dimensions back again to the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, so that the physical, how frequency shows up there, is in sensations. I feel hot, I feel cold. You know, these are sensations. They are pure frequency. They can be measured in hertz if, with electrodes and so forth, just as we can measure emotions. High frequency emotions, low frequency emotions, high frequency like love, gratitude, and joy, low frequency hate, fear, and guilt, for example. That often plays a role in our sexual self, fear and guilt and shame. And then the thoughts we think are it's all pure frequency. So in opening ourselves, we want to attune to what frequency am I living in? Because when I learn to connect with these frequencies, how they show up in emotions, sensations, or thoughts, I can have an access to altering it. And then, of course, through practice, because the nervous system alters through practice. It takes time to practice. So I just want to show this flow of energy with this energy ball. So I put it up here. So there are two metal pieces. When I place one finger on one metal piece and the other finger lights up, that is my inner circuit of energy. We all have circular energy within us that moves up from the base of the spine to the top of the head and down again on the exhalation. And it does this all day long, running this energy just like blood runs through our arteries. So we have this inner circuit that we want to cultivate. And that plays into what you shared about the mirror, that it's actually sourced, however we experience the world, however we look out into the world, is sourced from the inside. And this is how I can affect this inner circuit. Now, this will take some practice, and here this is just like opening, introducing this possibility. Then there is a circuit between two partners, intimate partners. It could be between a mother and a child, you know. And so when we do this, darling, would you do it with me? So let's.
I complete the connection here. And if I touch here, can't have anything touching but that. That breaks the connection, then she breaks the circuit.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
A great illustration of the circuit connection that we are living in. When I drop out of a story of how bad the weather is and start being appreciative of being able to enjoy the weather, then it appears to me that I've tapped into something that is connected. So that unified field is always available of love and connection. Once I shift it inside, I can connect to it.
I can become aware of
This
it.
is a great illustration of that.
So this energy is ever present. And we want to bring awareness to it because then we can move with it. So in that connection, like the ball that we just did, there's a practice for two beloveds. Again, it can be done with a friend, can be done with a child. So do you want to lead it?
Right. So we place our left hand on each other's heart center, and we gaze into each other's left eye, both eyes into each other's left eye. We synchronize our breath together and out together, gazing into each other's left eye, letting thoughts and stories go. The next inhalation, visualize receiving energy from the hand at your heart into your heart from the other. On the exhalation, visualize sending energy into their heart from the hand on their heart. Receiving on the inhalation, Sending on the exhalation. And you just commit to that energetic cycle.
And the next time when you send love from your heart into your beloved's heart, and when you breathe in, receive love from their heart through their hand in your heart. Exhaling, sending love from your heart. Inhaling, receiving love from your beloved's heart in your heart. Now we have the circuit again. And our energy is now heart to heart. So we are no longer in our head. What is he thinking? And I need to get off. No, we are connecting here. And it can get very sweet, you know.
And it reminds us of what's always there. See, we get out, we lose it, but then coming back to it just requires a little somatic awareness, a little focus. And when we're sending and receiving, what we do, instead of like waiting to feel something, you use your mind's focused attention on a location and sensation and intention to move it with in direction of your breath that you're wanting to do. And then it becomes very palpable, very physical, very somatic.
So, okay, so you're doing this with your partner, but what if you notice, oh God, my head is just going, he didn't wash the dishes last night. And,
That's all you do. You just notice and let it go. You don't attach, don't give it energy. Just go, oh, okay, there's my old friend, and then continue to focus with the breath. And it gets, what happens is as we become more familiar with this practice, we have longer and longer periods of just watching the story, the narrative, without the total felt sense of the narrative.
Yeah, and the more quickly we can shift out of the chatter mind, the dishes, yeah, into being here, because this is the only moment. Not what I think, what he didn't do. This is from the past, or, looking at reprimanding him in the future.
And Royce, it's not like we aren't animals and we don't get angry, upset, and disappointed. It's just that stuff doesn't stick around all the time and for as long. You know how something will happen and get you, and then you're still talking about it and feeling it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I find that if I'm in that state where I'm pissed at him for not doing the dishes, and again, this goes back to the mirroring, if I'm able to just say, right now I'm feeling really pissed that you didn't do the dishes. I wonder what that's a mirror of. Oh, because I didn't take the trash out last week. Okay, and I'm pissed at myself. And I just get it out. And then I feel such love for myself and for him. And then we could do that heart thing together. And it happens pretty instantly. So that's beautiful, though. I love that.
Yeah.
And you're pretty far along in your personal development, because a lot of folks can't let it go that easy. Even once you feel heard about something that's a situation and the other person is there and saying, I got it, thanks for sharing that, there's still something, so if people can do and then go into this practice and then further, drop in.
Yeah, or, for a couple that has been practicing with us for a little while, and always it's the individual work.
Yeah.
It's not the other is not going to do it for me. It's not because of the other. No, it's my decision, my commitment to myself to live in harmony with myself and with the other that has me then in the moment forego the impulse of wanting to stay with my self-righteousness.
Yes. We have like one more minute. Tell us how to reach you and about your new book and what else you need to tell us.
Yeah, thank you. So to reach us, you can go to TantraNova.com, TantraNova.com, TantraNova, the new Nova. And there, our courses and workshops and private programs and videos and all kinds of stuff where you can learn more. And then we want to give you a gift, which is called Tantric Intimacy. It's an ebook with foundational practices that you clean upon to get a sense further of what we spoke today about. So get a little bit more in depth and also then apply the practices into your life. And so it's the link to get the book is in the show notes. So we look forward to supporting you in this way.
Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all that you do. And both of you are just amazing. And yeah, go out and communicate and connect and enjoy the amazing experience of energy that we all contain. And hopefully, I'll have you on again. We'll talk some more. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Royce, for having us on. And you keep doing your work too, and we'll change the world.
I shall. Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
Elevate your love. Elevate your love. Elevate your love. Elevate your love.
Wow, it is wintry out there.